This conference will now be recorded.
Hello and welcome to our live webinar with Alfred Gratien. My name is Nicolas Pomponio, Director of Luxury for Fregenet Mioneto. We are so excited to be able to virtually travel to France. Today we visit the house built by Alfred Gratien in Epernay, which is in Champagne. Without further ado, I would like to hand over the virtual microphone and the virtual microphone to the CEO and Managing Director of Gratien and Meyer and Alfred Gratien, Olivier Dupris, and the winemaker, Nicolas Jaeger of Alfred Gratien.
Hi everybody, very happy to be able to talk to you again. This time I will wear the hat of the Champagne House, Alfred Gratien. I already introduced myself 2 weeks ago, so I joined the company 18 years ago, and I remember something very clearly. The first time I went to Epernay and met Nicolas and his father. We had a tasting, and at the end of the tasting, I left the winery, and Jean-Pierre, the father of Nicolas, said to Nicolas, "This guy doesn't know anything about champagne." But I learned, I fell in love, and now I can say I have a little bit of knowledge. Not as much as Nicolas, who is our winemaker, and very special about Nicolas is that he's the fourth generation of Jaeger hired by the company as a winemaker. You will understand why it is so important in the presentation. The company, it was founded in 1864, the same year, as I said, Gratien Meyer and Alfred Gratien, by Mr. Alfred Gratien. And he was a visionary. He had the idea right. Yes. I don't know why somebody mute my microphone. So I said he was a visionary, and he decided to set up the company right in the very middle, in the heart of Champagne in Epernay. This is very important because most people forget that Champagne is wine. And to make good wine, you need good grapes. And the good grapes, they are all around Epernay. This is why he settled the company in Epernay. 30 kilometers around, you have the Côte des Blancs, you have the Montagne de Reims, you have the Vallée de la Marne, you find the very best, very best grapes. We are a very unique company because we are the last company together with Krug to do 100% barrel fermentation. No new oak, and Nicolas will tell you why. We use barrels that have already been used 4 or 5 times, and we keep them up to 25 years. The aim of using those is not to give a wooden taste to the wine. It's just to allow the wine to breathe during the fermentation. And this breathing is bringing a lot of freshness, a lot of fruitiness, and keeps the complexity of the wine. How we source the wine, maybe you can go back to the first slide. Sorry, I was too fast. We source the wine from 65 growers around Epernay. And as I said before, good grapes, good wines. And the good grapes in Champagne, they are classified in Grand Cru and Premier Cru and regular. At Alfred Gratien, where Grand Cru and Premier Cru represent only in total 25%, we source 65% of the grapes in Grand Cru and Premier Cru. This is very important. We also only use the first pressing. When we crush the grape, we just only want to have the very best juice, the first juice, the tête de cuvée, that is all the fruit, all the complexity. We also, because and Nicolas will tell you more precisely, we don't do malolactic fermentation. We want to keep the freshness. We want to keep the authenticity. In the Champagne, 95% of the Champagne house, they do the malolactic fermentation. At Alfred Gratien, we don't. We are the only one the big brands which is not doing malolactic is Lance. Very important when you do no malolactic fermentation, when you do barrel fermentation, is to let the wine age. You cannot release an Alfred Gratien Brut Classique or a Blanc de Blanc or vintage after 1 year or 15 months like the law is for a Brut Classique or 3 years for a vintage. We age the wine for more than 4 years for a Brut Classique, letting the opportunity and the chance the wine to really develop and to mature. If I may bring a comparison, opening a bottle of Alfred Gratien after 15 months would be like opening a bottle of Petrus Vintage 19. It would be spoiled. Very important also is we are the last company, and I said before, to do barrel fermentation. And this barrel fermentation, this is a skill that has disappeared in Champagne. 100 years ago, everybody was using barrels. Nowadays, most of the house, they use stainless steel tanks, temperature control. And at Alfred Gratien, we still use the barrel. And this is why, and I mentioned earlier that Nicolas is so precious to the company. Nicolas has the knowledge and the know-how from his father, his grandfather, his grand-grandfather. Gaston started and was hired by Alfred Gratien in 1905. And every son has been working a lot with the father to keep the knowledge of the barrel fermentation. Doing great wine in barrels is a skill. Nicolas would tell you, he will not, but it's easier to make vinegar in barrels than to make great wine. And we make great wine. Why you ask why we are in Épernay? It's obvious. It's obvious. Épernay is not the biggest city of the Champagne, but it's a very central city, and it's very important to have a very close relationship to the growers, so to be able to talk to the growers. It's a war to get the Grand Cru in Champagne, and the fact that we do the barrel fermentation has two aspects: a quality aspect, but also a relationship aspect. Because when growers are supplying their grapes to Alfred Gratien, because of the 1,000 barrels we have in the cellar, we are able to make the fermentation of every single batch independently, separately, and we can invite the growers in January when the wine is ready to come and taste the result of their grapes. So this is very important in terms of relationship, in terms of quality, and this you cannot do it if you are 100 kilometers away from your growers. Grower association, you say, why are you belonging to the grower association? It's a very funny story. It's about 10 years ago, about 20 growers in Champagne, quite famous ones, decided to make an association to promote their wine. And one day they called us and say, do you want to become member of the association? And we said that we are not a grower. And they said, you are not a grower, but you are working like a grower. You are taking care of the grapes like a grower. You are making wonderful like a grower. So we said, why not? And we joined this association. And this is why now, even though we are a négociant, even though we buy grapes from the 16 wine growers, we are considered as a grower Champagne. It is very important in the image of the customer because we only produce 300,000 bottles, which is my market share is 0.1% of the total Champagne. So you need to be different, and being seen as a grower makes you also seen very, very differently. Why did I choose the Alfred Gratien? In fact, Alfred Gratien asked me to come because it was the Henkel people 18 years ago. They called me on a Friday night and said, we need somebody to manage the Saumur business and the Champagne business. Would you like to do it? And I said, well, I was 40 at that time, and I said, well, let's see, that's a new challenge. That's something interesting. And I was Saumur born and raised, so in love with Crémant and Saumur. And I saw this as an opportunity to learn the Champagne world. As I said before, I had no idea 18 years ago. Now I will let Nicolas confirm that I have a little bit of knowledge and I can talk about my Champagne. I love them, and it's a niche house that I really love. I share a lot of relationships now with the growers. The growers in the Champagne business, this is a very special business. You call and you treat growers like customers, or even better, because it's very important to have the good relationship to get the good grapes. And we every year we invite them for a big tasting. And so I know all of them now individually, and I spend some time individually with them. And this is why we are seen also like a grower champ. I will hand over to Nicolas who is going to tell you what he's making, why his work so interesting, when he's so passionate about the wine. And again, he's the most important person in the company. I am managing the company, but without him, I would be nobody. So Nicolas, it's your turn.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming. I'm Nicolas Jaeger from Alfred Gratien Champagne. I'm 48 years old now, and the particularity, I'm lucky boy because I was born in Champagne. My feet is in Champagne for all the time, and particularly for Alfred Gratien Champagne. The particularity of me, I make a wine school in Champagne. When I was to the wine school, I'm 16 years old, and my father, during the school, I work for Alfred Gratien. And since 1990, my first job is Alfred Gratien Champagne, and I continue now. My birthday, Alfred Gratien Champagne, is in July, the 1st July, for 30 years. One thing I'm lucky because my father taught me 17 years before I was a winemaker. And he teach me all the process. I can meet him, the grower. I can learn the vineyard and the word vineyard with my uncle. My heart is in Champagne. Do you think it's okay, Olivier? You hear me? You can understand? Okay, thank you. Excuse my English, all. Particularity of Alfred Gratien, Olivier explained very well, of course, but particularity of Alfred Gratien, we have different cuvées. Today, in front of me, you have two different cuvées. This is very important for us because one of the cuvées here is the Brie Classic. The second one here is the Cuvée Paradis. Is really two different cuvées because the blend is different. Because what I can say, this is very important to know. If you want to understand the house of Champagne, you must taste the Brie Classic. The Brie Classic, this one is the ambassador of Alfred Gratien Champagne. If you want to know the house of Champagne, when you taste the Brie Classic, you can feel the strategy, or you can feel what you want, what the house wants with this wine. For the Brie Classic, we use the wine from different year. But I think I can explain to you after about that. But Alfred Gratien Champagne is different because I hear Mr. Dupris explain to you it's impossible for Alfred Gratien sell the wine after 15 months in the bottles. I agree with him because all the process is different. If you look House of Champagne, where you can count on your hand, the house work 100% in oak. Alfred Gratien is a third share in Champagne in volume, and it's impossible to sell the wine after 15 months because the wine is not ready to drink. This bottle now you sell in US is the bottle come from wine 2014. Put in the bottles in 15, you have 5 years in the bottles now. For the Cuvée Paradis, we use only the grapes come from the best village and the best cru. But I explain to you after about that. What can I say? Thank you for coming. Maybe now, if you have some question or all, I'm waiting.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Fantastic. Thank you for making those amazing insights on Alfred Gratien. Moving forward, let's go into the question and answer. Olivier, what does the winery do specifically to be sustainable?
We are working. We are investing every year because it's very important that we preserve the earth, not only for the champagne, not only for the image of the house, but just for the future of our children. And we are working in different fields. We are working with the growers to make them use as little chemical as possible. We have close relationship with them to have them bringing the grapes as plain as possible so that after we don't need to use any kind of treatment. One example what we have made 3 years ago, you know that when you use the barrels, you need to fill the barrels with water before you can refill them, because otherwise they would leak. And we have invested in a cooling and humidification system. Before, we had to fill the 1,000 barrels, which is 300 cubic meter of water. Now, because of the cooling system, we can do this with 10% of the water. So we are saving 90% of the water supply. In Champagne, it's not Alfred Gratien only, but we have been working on a new bottle to lighten the weight of the glass and to make less energy to produce it, to make less energy to carry.
Wow, those are some great facts on sustainability. And Nicola, how does the absence of malolactic fermentation affect the style and longevity of the wines at Alfred Gratien?
If you must imagine 96%, I think, in Champagne do malolactic fermentation. For me, Champagne is wine. Some people think you drink Champagne only for a party. Champagne is fun because you have bubbles, but really for me, Champagne is really important wine. And for this reason, I respect the wine. And I think if you do malolactic fermentation, you lose this natural acidity in the wine. And this natural acidity is really important if you want to keep wine very long time in your cellar. One thing is important. For this reason, we keep minimum 3 years, 4 years in our cellar. We wait for you, but when you have bottle of champagne, you can drink now, but you can keep a long time with Alfred Gratien champagne. If you buy a bottle of Alfred Gratien champagne, good classic, you buy high quality. You have 3 possibilities to keep the wine in the good condition. 3 factors very important. The acidity. Acidity keep the wine fresh for a long time. This is antioxidant. And for this reason, we don't do malolactic fermentation. When you do malolactic fermentation, sometimes you have not enough acidity in your wine, and you must put, but not natural acidity. Here we keep natural acidity. The second thing, very important, if you want to keep wine and have antioxidant in your wine, is the tannin. Alfred Gratien work 100% in oak, and we have tannin in the wine, and this is another solution to keep longer in the bottle. And the third is the sugar. If you make apple pie, you put sugar on the apple because you have less oxidation on your apple. If you disgorge the bottle, you know we put a little bit sugar in our bottle. We balance the acidity because we don't do malolactic fermentation with the sugar. And with this process, you have wine for a very long time. And when I like to speak about wine because the CIVC for a long time make publicity about champagne. It's important, of course, but very important things, champagne is wine.
Amazing.
And Alfred Gratien is wine.
Absolutely, and delicious wine it is. Nicola, a lot of the people on the sales team, we compare ourselves to some of the bigger name houses. I'm not going to name names. Are there other houses that also utilize, we use 100% wood vinification. Do other houses do this? How can we explain to our clients? What would be the best way to explain this?
If we compare with another champagne, 100% oak made, the big difference with Krug, example, Krug said the wine decide if we do malolactic fermentation or not. I think they decide for the wine, but here we decide all, we don't do malolactic fermentation. Big particularity of Alfred Gratien, we work for vinification and we keep the wine 6 months after the harvest for aging in the barrel. Krug have very fast fermentation, and immediately in December they extract the wine outside the barrel. This is very different for Alfred Gratien. We keep very long time on the sediment in the barrel. We wait the wine go clear. This is very important because we have less filtration after. And we don't do batonnage. We keep the sediment in the barrel because it's very important to have to work with wood, but the sediment capture a part of the wood flavor in the barrel, in the wine. And with this, you can feel the wine in your glass, but not only the wood. If you work in the barrel and you feel only the wood, it's not really interesting, but this is a very long process. It's very hard to keep the wine in good condition in the barrel. I think for this reason, Krug decide to extract the barrel quickly, the wine to the barrel quickly. And here we keep very long time, but we fill the barrel every 15 days. This is a long process, but I think for this reason we are different. But if you compare two houses like a Krug or Bollinger, Alfred Gratien, this is we have the same idea about the quality of the wine, but we make three different wine, really three different wine. I think Alfred Gratien's wine is very fresh style.
Absolutely fresh. I love Alfred Gratien, and especially when we're on the out selling the wines, freshness is extremely important. Olivier, how do you work with the growers, and how do you make them accountable for the quality of their grapes?
I said already that because we have 1,000 barrels in the cellar, we are able to make the fermentation of every single batch separately. We don't only do that, we just mark every single barrels with the name of the growers, the name of the village, so that when in January, when the wines are ready, growers are farmers and they are proud of what they produce, so they come to our place and they are able to test the results of their work. They are able to taste the best wine that is coming from their vineyard. This way, you know, it's a win-win game because they cannot cheat us. It would be very ashamed to taste wines that are not tasting well.
Excellent. Nicolas, how do you decide what vintages to make a Paradis and in which ones to skip?
I can say, apologize, excuse me, Mr. Dupris, but wine is not only marketing. Alfred Gratien, we decide, of course, during the harvest time, if the grapes are very good quality, very good maturity, nice balance with sugar and acidity. But after the test in the barrel, during 6 months, we decide if we have a potential to do a vintage or not. Sometimes we can, sometimes we decide to don't do.
Do the Paradis grapes come from like certain cru locations?
Yes, very important. Because the Cuvée Paradis, we use only Grand Cru and Premier Cru. For give you an idea, you have 6 Grand Cru in the Côte des Blancs. When I do the blend of the Cuvée Paradis, I use the 6 Grand Cru. The 6 Grand Cru are Ménil-sur-Oger, Avize, Chouilly, Auger, Cramant, and Wary. But it's not only 6 Grand Cru, it's maybe 20 different growers. After we use only Pinot Noir come from Grand Cru and Premier Cru, because I like the Pinot Noir from Cumière. Cumière is a Premier Cru, and they give me something very special because it's really fruity but not too heavy. I want to make wine with a nice potential but not too heavy. This is very important. The wine stay fresh and drinkable. It's interesting for me if you drink one glass and you want the second and the third immediately.
Absolutely. Well, our 30 minutes actually has come to an end. That went really quickly, but we have many more great questions, so we're going to stay on the line here. If time allows you, everyone, please stay with us. If not, thank you so much for joining, but we're going to go ahead and move on with a few more questions. And Nicolas, how long have you been using old Chablis barrels for your primary fermentation? And where do you get them from?
When we decide to use, when my father decided to use Bordeaux come from Chablis, I said just before, it's very interesting if you can drink wine, not only the Bordeaux. And for this reason we use the Bordeaux come from second hand. Because we have the potential for the micro-oxygenation, give the wine warm, give some flavor, very delicate, but not too strong in wood. This is very, very important.
Great. Olivier, this question is for you. Are you still hand riddling?
You know, maybe I could return the question. A good riddler, how many bottles could he riddle a day? It's 60,000 bottles a day. And nowadays, we don't really find anybody willing to do that. And the riddling is only a physical operation. You just move the sediment from the bottle to the neck of the bottle in order to be able to get rid of them when you do the disgorgement. So no, we don't do riddling, and nobody is riddling any longer. And there is no difference between the end of the machine. The only thing is that the machine is never forgetting a bottle.
That makes sense. Nicolas, this question is for you. How many vineyards do you own, and how many vineyards are you sourcing from? And also, how many growers?
Grower, around 50 different growers. I meet each grower during harvest time. But you saw how many villages? Around 20. You saw the Champagne map. We stay near Épernay for the proximity. And if you look around Épernay, you have nice cru. All the Grand Cru and Premier Cru are around Épernay. And for me, it's not interesting to go far.
For the this one's also for Nicolas. For the non-vintage labels, what is the age bracket of cuvées used for the blend?
We use the three grapes, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Pinot Meunier. And Alfred Gratien have a perpetual reserve since around 1990. My father started this perpetual reserve. And every year we keep a part of the Brut Classic blend and we use in the next one. And with this, we have the possibility to control the quality of the wine, to have not exactly the same wine every year, but the same style. Always, if you hear me, I speak about the style of the house. It's very boring to drink every day the same wine, but the style is very, very important. And for this reason, we use around 30% of this perpetual reserve to control the style of Alfred Gratien champagne.
Great. Olivier, this question is for you. When Alfred Gratien moved up to Champagne, why did he choose to settle in Épernay?
Because, as I said before, Épernay is not the largest city, but it's the most important city. And it's really in the middle of the Champagne. You are at the hand reach of every Grand Cru, of every growers that you need to keep the relationship with.
Fantastic. Well, we have a few questions that came via chat that we'd like to ask, if that's okay. What is the varietal breakdown for the Brut and Rosé Classique? And that would probably go to, let's see here, Nicolas.
Excuse me, Olivier, can you help me?
Quel est l'assemblage du Brut et du Rosé?
We use the same quality for the Brut and for the Brut Rosé. The difference, we use red wine come from Grand Cru for the Brut Rosé, but the blend of the white wine for the Brut Classique is around 50% Chardonnay, 25% Pinot Noir, and 25% Pinot Meunier. And this is a blending rosé. This is important for me because I think the blending rosé is more delicate. Always the same philosophy. We want never something too heavy, boring after 2 glasses. And we use Grand Cru from Bouzy, depend the year, around 11–12%.
Fantastic.
For the color.
Another question that we had come in on the chat was for Olivier. Do you know what year we actually joined the Growers Associations? And are there any other négociants included?
We are the only négociant in this association, and Nicolas can probably answer, but I think it's about 10 years ago.
But this is normally this year we make anniversary, but is cancelled, of course. But this is we start with a friend association. We start with friend association. Because all the artisans are friends of me and they decide to speak with me if a negotiation is interesting for him to go in the association. And Mr. Dupris say, if you think it's nice for you and if it's nice for the house, we work with. And now we have a successful.
Great. This is going to be our last question, and this one also is from the chat. And this one's for Nicolas. What are your favorite vintages from your tenure and maybe some of the favorite wines from your father and grandfather's times?
The best vintage I tasted is one magnum with foie gras for Christmas. Come from my grandfather, is 1955. The best vintage for my father, I think, is 1996 is one of the best one. You know, 2002 is really good. 2008 is very good. 2012 is very, very good. And the next one for me, maybe 19.
That's great. Thank you so much, Olivier and Nicolas, for all of your insight with Alfred Gratien. It's a delight to sell the wines. I'm going to hand it over to Olivier for the close. Once again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for all of you for taking time to listen to the story of Alfred Gratien. Maybe something I have not mentioned, but we have very long relationship with the growers. We have very long relationship with the winemaker, 100 years history. We are last but not least, our oldest customer, the Wine Society, is we have a relationship with them since 1906. So you see, as Alfred Gratien, we like long-lasting relationship, and I hope today is going to be not the beginning, but it's going to be another day between you and Alfred Gratien for the next 100 years. And I want to cheer on that and thank you again. And I invite you, every one of you, please come and visit the Champagne. You will be our guest with Nicolas and us, and you will be able to taste our Champagne. Cheers.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.